This was a day on the 4th of December when the withdrawal from the Chosin Reservoir was in full force, and we were flying practically around the clock, although we weren't really equipped to do much night flying. We had some heckler flights would go out. But the Marines and the Army troops were in desperate need for all the air cover that they could get. And on the 4th of December, there was a flight of 8 Corsairs and eight Sky Raiders, as I remember, flying up in the area on what we call armed reconnaissance. It was not close air support. We were looking for any types of enemy movement or mechanized equipment on the ground. It was about probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I was flying wing on what we call a section leader, a flight of 4 aircraft. I was the tail end Charlie. When my section leader called that he was losing power, apparently had been hit, and he was forced to make a crash landing. And because of the condition of the ground and everything, his plane buckled when it hit the ground and was damaged to such an extent that we didn't see how he could have survived. When he, on his way down, he had opened the canopy of his aircraft, but after he had hit, the canopy had slammed shut, and those of us flying over him were just convinced that he perished in the accident. But about a minute later, he had opened his canopy and waved to us to show us that he was still alive. There was smoke coming out from under the cowling of the aircraft and blowing back, not right by the cockpit, but it gave us a lot of concern because we didn't know what the cause of the smoke was, but it could be a fire that could have erupted later on. But as soon as this pilot landed, our flight leader climbed to altitude and called for a rescue helicopter. And a response was some time in coming, and we were very concerned about whether something would happen before the helicopter could get there. So when we got confirmation that the helicopter was coming up, and because of our concern about the flame breaking out in the aircraft, I decided to make a land beside him to try to pull him out of the cockpit, get him out for whatever reason was keeping him in there, being reasonably assured that the helicopter could take us both away. I dropped all of my ordnance to make the airplane as light as I could, and then, as I described, made a simulated carrier pass, flew the airplane as slow as I could on one pass, and then felt that I could do it the second time. And I guess I shouldn't say that I was surprised, but I hit one hell of a lot harder than I had imagined. But it was about, I'm guessing about a 20-degree upslope. And what I tried to do was climb up and sort of gently fly into the ground, but it came up faster and a hell of a lot harder than I'd anticipated, because it was rock hard because of the temperature. And even though it was cushioned by a foot of snow, it was the fluffy snow, and I don't know how much cushion that provided. And I did hurt my back, but I was almost unaware of it until later on when it stiffened up. But I'll admit there for about 3 or 4 seconds when I was on that wild ride before I came to a stop, I wondered what the hell I was doing there. When I got to his aircraft, found out that the reason he didn't get out is because as the fuselage buckled, it pinned his leg in so that he couldn't move. Very conscious and very calm. But he was frozen. He had taken off his gloves to try to unhook his parachute harness. There's a buckle on each leg. He couldn't do it, and he dropped his gloves, and his hands were frozen when I got there. He'd taken off his helmet, And by the time I got to him was anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes from the time he landed. And in that cold, he must have been very cold, but he didn't complain. He didn't complain about it or anything else at all. He was so calm, he has to have been in a state of real shock. And there are periods of time when he said nothing at all, and I don't know whether he was just unconscious or so utterly tired and everything that he was the same as being unconscious. I hurt my back when my airplane was under as much control as you could get it, and he had no control except in direction, but he couldn't control his rate of descent at all. And even though mine was relatively minor, I just imagine what that must have done to him. And so I just have to say very honestly, I'm not just sure when he did perish, but he was on the verge of it at the time. The helicopter pilot came along about half an hour later after I'd been trying to free this fellow, and between the helo pilot and myself, there's nothing we could do. This fellow's name was Jesse Brown. It happened that he was the Navy's first black aviator. It had, if anything, a calming influence on us. It should have been the other way around. But he kept lapsing off into unconsciousness, which shouldn't have been too much of a surprise because I said we were surprised he even survived at all. And when it became pretty apparent to the helicopter pilot and me that there was nothing further, the helo pilot pulled me aside to tell me that darkness was approaching, and helicopters in those days were not instrumented for flying at night or in bad weather. And if he didn't get off the ground reasonably soon, he couldn't fly back through that mountainous terrain. We don't know just when Jesse did perish, but we had to leave him there. When the weather cleared on December 7th, which was Pearl Harbor Day, an aircraft came in from the ship to take me back out. The captain of the ship was ready to send in a helicopter with a flight surgeon to try to extract the body from the airplane and bring it back to the ship. But it would have been much too dangerous. It would have tested the endurance of the helicopters and certainly exposed the crew and the flight surgeon and everybody else to dangers that they shouldn't have been for that. But they did send an airplane up to drop napalm on it to cremate the body that was in the cockpit. And when Jesse went down, and it was obvious that he was alive, but it was also obvious that for some reason he didn't get out of a very dangerous place. A lot of us shared the same feeling. All he needed was the old helping hand to get him out of there and everything would be all right. And I made the decision only after I was assured that that helicopter was on the way, because it would have been foolhardy to have crash landed and find out that now that we've got Jesse out of the cockpit, what do we do next? So it was fairly easy, frankly, fairly easy for me to make this decision under the circumstances, knowing that help was coming. I felt very strongly that crash landing, I'd take my chances, but I felt that my chances of survival from that were much better than good, and it was one of those things that the risk was worth it.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help us produce more compelling historical content like this, please like, comment below, and share this video with fellow history buffs. And of course, be sure to subscribe to help keep history happening.